Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tipoff 2023-2024. Dr. Ron Poniewasz, basketball MD, and Professor Larry Kelly, a basketball professor and former basketball coach, ninth grade basketball coach at Newcastle, former varsity baseball coach at Shenango, and a current assistant coach with Penn State Shenango. Mr. Larry Kelly joining us again here on Tipoff. Larry, thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure, Ronnie. It's always a pleasure to be here. And I got to be honest, I miss coaching up hoops. I was watching the Pitt game the other day against Duke. They got the lead, I think a 4-point lead with 15 seconds to go, and they got a side out, and they can't get the ball in bounds. And it made me crazy. At Newcastle, we had 3 or 4 plays guaranteed to get the ball in bounds. Probably we'd have shot a layup the way they were defending it. And I sent Coach Belundo a text and said, I've decided you're a better coach than Jeff Capel. It was making me nuts. And I don't know. Listen, there were 2 things I prided myself on. That if you pressed me, I was going to make you pay. I knew how to break a press. And I knew how to get the ball in bounds. I mean, you learn that in elementary basketball, but for some reason, Pitt couldn't do it. But they still won the game. But I miss hoops. It makes me crazy. I coach from my couch now, and I'm probably better there.
Yeah, Saturday was a day of upsets in college basketball. That's for sure. West Virginia beat third-ranked Kansas.
Yes, how about that? That's a big win for the Mountaineers. Absolutely, absolutely. And Pitt won at Duke. They haven't won since 1979.
Right.
That was the Carter administration, if my memory serves me correctly. That's a long time, buddy, to go without winning a game in Cameron Indoor.
That's
But
for sure.
Always great to be with you. And we're not here to talk about Pitt basketball. We're here to talk about one of the best all-around athletes in Lawrence County. This kid is special. Tell us about Jay Wrona.
Yeah, Jay Wrona is our athlete of the week. So we will have 2 segments this week, athlete of the week, and then we will have a topic that we will discuss further in another segment. But first, as Larry said, Jay Wrona is our athlete of the week. He is a senior guard, 5'11" for the Mohawk Warriors. He had 2 nice performances last week. The Warriors played 2 games on the court. He had 27 points in a huge 64-52 Section 1-3A road win over Neshannock. That was a battle for first place, and he made 5 3-pointers in that game, and he backed that up with 20 points in a 61-50 win over Shenango. That was non-section, and he had 2 more 3-pointers in that win. And Larry, first off, that win over Neshannock, that gives them a half game lead, game and a half actually, in the section, but also being that they beat Neshannock on the Lancers' home floor, the return matchup later on is on their home floor.
Listen, big game players play big in big games, and Jay Wrona is a big game player. This kid's special, man. To go to Neshannock and win on the Lancers' home court is an accomplishment, and to score 27 points when there's no surprise when Jay Wrona shows up in the gym. You've been scouted. They have their best, if not one of their best defenders guarding you. You're looking at double teams anytime they can do it to try to get the ball out of your hands. And to put up 27 points is a special, special effort. And, and then he follows that up with 20 points in a win over Shenango. Look, the kid's special. And as scary as this might sound, he might be a better baseball player than he is a basketball player, and he's a tremendous basketball player. This kid hit about 600 last year, and I know we didn't get him out too many times when I was coaching at Shenango High School. He's a special player. He's just one of those guys that, the bigger the moment, the better he plays, and I'm sure that he will continue this throughout the remainder of his high school senior season. And I'm sure Nicky Mariano, the head coach at Mohawk, a kid I coached at Westminster College, is happy that he has Jay Wrona returning to lead his baseball team this year. So I Listen, a fabulous, fabulous performance on the road at Neshannock, duly worthy of Athlete of the Week.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And he's, as you mentioned, baseball, and he's probably every bit as good at baseball, if not better in baseball. He's also a heck of a football player and a great golfer.
Yeah, he's the quarterback on the football team. Yep. And his handicap's about 2 on the golf team. Wow. Yeah, the kid's special. There's not too many young men who can be so dominant in all 4 sports. Not too many. That's a special combination. Now, I'm a biased guy. I always say the baseball players can play any sport, but this kid's just good in everything, and he will be heard of the rest of the year. And the bigger the game, the better he plays. I can tell you that. It's the way he was on the baseball diamond. That's the way he is on the basketball court. And I've been watching him for a couple of years now. This kid can play.
Try to put it into words, explain it to us, being that we mentioned he's a four sport athlete and incredibly good at all 4 of those sports. Naturally, there's 24 hours to a day, but take us all the way back to a kid that is growing up. How much time does a kid have to devote each day to all 4 sports? Is it something that you put 2 hours each day, as you're growing up?
Well, first of all, you got to have the athletic gift from God, which he has. And then, you have to have the work ethic to do it. Because I'm going to tell you something. Basketball is a skill game. You just don't walk on the court and start making 3-pointers. Baseball is a skill game. You don't just step into the box and hit 600. Golf is a skill game. You just don't walk on the course and shoot even par. Probably the least skillful game is football, and I don't mean to insult all my football brethren out there, but even that, at the quarterback position, the ability to be able to spin that ball and make the plays. This young man just does it all. And I don't know, you've been doing this as long, if not longer than me. How many 4-star athletes have you seen, 4-star athletes have you seen in Lawrence County in your time here? I can't think of another one that was dominant in 4 sports.
I don't know about 4 sports. I remember Corey Collins from Laurel High School being awfully good in football, basketball, and baseball. That's 3 sports. I don't know that he played a 4th sport. He was awfully good. Terry Grissetti was very good in football and basketball. I don't believe he played anything beyond those 2. Maybe track, but like I say, that's 4. And we're trying to come up with, kids that played 2 or 3. It's hard to come up with somebody that played 4.
And be a star. I mean, be all section, be all WPIL in 4 sports. I quite frankly can't think of anybody. If any of our listeners can think of anybody, please send us an email or post something on Twitter, because I can't think of another young man or young woman who has been dominant in 4 sports. And this kid's dominant. He's dominant in 4 sports.
And I know we're getting away from basketball, but when you mentioned football and things like that, and it goes beyond throwing the ball. You mentioned how he can spin it. You got to read coverage. You got to read the defense too, and that's a cerebral part of the game, which means he's a very intelligent young man as well.
I've coached a lot of years, and I've coached a lot of sports, and I've always said the great athletes are able to not only dominate physically, but they're able to dominate the mental aspect of the game. And like you said, the quarterback has to be able to read the defense. That's dominating the mental aspect of the game. A baseball player, it's a chess game between you and the pitcher. And to be able to figure out, how he's trying to get you out and what he's going to throw and in what kind he's going to throw it. Basketball, to make the right play. I love smart, man. And, in the truly great players, they're as gifted mentally as they are physically. And this young man is gifted mentally and physically. He's a special athlete. He really is. And listen, I'm not biased. I mean, this isn't a biased opinion. I'm not related to him, nor did I ever coach at Mohawk High School. but I've watched him play in 2 sports for a long time. The kid is special. I've watched him play in 3 sports, actually. I've never seen him golf, but, I've seen him on the football field, on the basketball court. And as I said, as a baseball player, he's going to Youngstown State University on a Division I scholarship. So the young man can play. He was a shortstop. He made all the plays. He hit everything we threw up there. Not too many people could get him out.
Yeah, well, you're a coach, Larry. So tell us, after his playing days are done at the next level in terms of baseball, and then if he should happen to go on even beyond college, do you see him as a coach? And if you do, what sport? He could be a golf instructor. He could be a football coach. He could be basketball coach. Remember, Matt Clement was a pitcher for the Chicago Cubs, and he's coaching basketball at Butler High School. So it doesn't that he could go on to baseball. He could coach in football or basketball.
Listen, first of all, Matt Clement was a tremendous basketball player too. Sure. He was part of that '93 Butler team that played at Newcastle and maybe the greatest game ever at the Fieldhouse.
Right.
Listen, Jay Wrona can coach all 4 of those sports. I'm certain of that. And again, in my experience, sometimes the greatest players did not make the transition to become the greatest coaches because everything came so naturally to them that, the intricacies of the game, the X's and the O's, the ins and the outs, they were just so dominant. They didn't have to worry about that stuff. But this young man, he's got it. He's got the gift. He works at it. And, whatever he chooses to do, I'm sure he'll do it well.
Yeah. And naturally you follow baseball and stuff like that. I've always heard growing up about baseball managers, people like Pete Rose or Ted Williams. They both were managers later in their career. They didn't experience the same success as a manager as they did in their playing days. And a lot of people would say that's because they held themselves to such a high standard with their playing career that they expected every player that played for them to be just as good as well. So, I don't know, where would you say, Jay would fall into that?
Well, it depends. Look, I've always said, I don't care what sport you're coaching, everybody knows the X's and the O's. The playbook we have at Newcastle High School is the same playbook that everybody else is using. I think the coaches that are successful, first of all, they're great leaders. They know how to motivate their players. They know how to get their players to play hard. They're great teachers, and they spend a tremendous amount of time teaching the intricacies of the game so that their players understand the mental aspect of the game. I don't care what sport I was coaching, whether it was baseball at Shenango or hoops at Newcastle. I used to tell our players all the time, I want to play chess while everybody else is playing checkers. I want to think like a chess player, 1 or 2 moves ahead while everybody else is playing checkers. And I think the great teams and the great coaches, they do that.
Mm-hmm. Sure. All right. Mohawk is in first place in Section 1, 3A as we film this tonight, January 22nd, I believe. They're 6-0 in the league and 10-6 overall. And Jay Wrona, as we film this on Monday night, has 1,272 career points. Again, 1,272 career points. So
that's only 1,270 more than I had in my high school career.
And two, right?
I had 2. Yeah.
Yours was on a dunk, right?
No, hardly. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, those are great numbers. 1,272 points. So he'll be on that 1,000-point list for eternity, and a lot of special players on that list.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's the 1,000-point plateau is like the gold standard for any athlete in high school basketball, college basketball. To score 1,000, you have to be pretty special.
And you got to stay healthy too. It's you don't just get on there by accident.
No, you don't. You got to play, and you got to start playing normally when you're a freshman, to get some playing time, and then continue on with that excellence throughout the remainder of your high school career. And this young man has done it, and he's not done yet. That's a good basketball team. I may make my way out to Mohawk to watch the rematch, Mohawk Neshannock.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so he is our athlete of the week, he being Jay Wrona, a 5'11" senior guard for Mohawk High School. Come on back. We have one more topic, and we will talk about Ellwood City boys basketball, and we will do that next right here on Tip-Off.
We all know there's an advantage to being the home team, to playing at home. And at LGKG, we have been your home team for personal injury cases involving automobile accidents and workers' compensation claims for over 90 years. At LGKG, over 10,000 clients have trusted us to represent them. We know how to present your case to a Western Pennsylvania jury. We know what makes them tick. We know how to win.
We're back with you here on Tip-Off, and this week's topic is the Ellwood City Lincoln boys basketball team. And Larry, first off, the good news is they're 4-2 in section. Section 1, 3A, same section as Mohawk. We just talked about Mohawk at length in the previous segment, and they're 9-6 overall, are the Wolverines, currently holding down the third playoff spot. So they're in good shape. However, Larry, are you concerned at all with Ellwood City? And in particular, they lost to Neshannock 62-51 the first matchup. They lost to Mohawk 77-64. The Neshannock game was away. The Mohawk game was home. This week, they play both of those teams. They play home to Neshannock on Tuesday, and they go at Mohawk on Friday. Is this a team, Larry, that you view as, let's call them Missouri? Are they a show-me team? Do they have to show you something going into the playoffs? Do they need to beat at least one of these?
Well, absolutely. They have to beat Neshannock at home. You gotta protect home court. If you're gonna make any kind of a run at a section title, you can't lose at home. Not in basketball. Home court in basketball is a bigger advantage than any home advantage in any other sport. If you're asking me, it's a bigger advantage than a football home field advantage. It's a bigger advantage than a baseball home field advantage. You're used to shooting in your gym. You're used to the lighting. The fans are close to the court. The student sections right on top of the players, and sometimes the officials. You get those home court calls when you're at home. So look, they're going to have to, if they're going to make a serious run at a section championship, they have to beat Neshannock at home on Tuesday. And then hope for the best at Mohawk. It's tough to win at Mohawk. I know that. I've coached there. My daughters have played there. It's a tough place to win. However, they got a kid named Joe Roth on their team. This kid's special against Quaker Valley. And Quaker Valley, you got to remember, they're having a little bit of a down year. But Mike Mastriano might be one of the best coaches in the WPIAL. And Joe Roth had 24 points, 21 rebounds, and 14 assists in an Ellwood City win, 68-44 over Quaker Valley this past weekend. So when you got Joe Roth on your team, you can beat anybody. This kid is that good. He is that good. And again, we talk about two-sport athletes. As great as he is as a basketball player, he might be a better swimmer. You might see this young man in the Olympics one of these days. He's that good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and last year, take a short trip back in time. Last year, Larry, pretty much the same team in terms of Ellwood City. Remember, last year they were one and done in the playoffs, lost 76-57 to Deer Lakes. And Larry, if they can't beat either Neshannock or Mohawk, at best you're going to be third place in the league. And Beaver Falls is 4-3, 4-8 overall. So they are essentially a half game behind you. And what happens if you stumble somewhere and then you lose to Beaver Falls also? You could be a 4 seed, and then you're going to be playing somebody really good in the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But hey, listen, here's my feeling. Once you get into the playoffs, that's all you want to do is get in. Now, there is an advantage because I think those first round games are played at home. That never used to be the case. It was always neutral sites. But I believe if you are the higher seed, you get a first-round game at home, and that's a huge advantage in a basketball game for all of the reasons that I had just mentioned earlier. But again, they got a kid on their team. Joe Roth has 1,000 career rebounds. 1,000 rebounds. That's even more impressive than having 1,000 points. And he has 1,792 points. So with a young man like that, you can beat anybody. He's just that good. He's that good. But, there's still other elements to the game. You can't turn it over. You got to out-rebound the other team. You got to run some good offense. These coaches, they know what they're doing. They're not going to allow Joe Roth to beat them. So Ellwood City has to be kind of pretty cerebral. They can't just post them up. They got to move them around. You got to let them bring the ball down once in a while. You got to put them on a wing once in a while. You got to post them up once in a while. You got to set, stagger screens for him once in a while, but you got to get the ball in his hands and give him a chance without looking at a double team, to score some points for you, because he'll do it if given that opportunity.
Set the scene for us, Larry. What will that gym look like on Tuesday night against Neshannock for that big section matchup?
Oh man, it'll be sold out. Listen, Ellwood packs the gym. They really do, and Neshannock brings a little bit of an entourage, so it'll be a really exciting Western Pennsylvania section basketball game, and it will be electric in the gym. It really will.
Maybe getting lost in the shuffle too is these teams are probably bigger rivals than people might understand, because if you remember a couple years ago when Ellwood City won the WPIL championship, they defeated Neshannock on the Lancers home floor in the WPIL.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And that was an upset back in. I think Ellwood City might have been a 12 seed. Ronnie, what was their seed? They were a lower seed, but they had a heck of a run. Coach Antuano had those guys ready to go. It's difficult to win away from home. And and listen, everybody wants to beat Neshannock, just like everybody wants to beat Newcastle. It's just the way it goes. You know what I mean? For whatever reason.
Sure. Okay. All right, Larry. Anything else you'd like to say on Ellwood City? We're at the turn of section play, so I guess we could make it general. Newcastle boys gotta win. They absolutely have to win Friday night against North Allegheny.
Yeah.
Then the girls are in a great spot. They're in first place. I don't know how many people would have thought that. There's just so many good stories as we make the turn in section play.
I looked at the paper today and I saw that the Red Hurricane was 1-4 and in last place in the section. Man, yeah, I'm not used to looking at that. And Ralph made it clear. He said, look, it's must win on Friday night, North Allegheny, and the gym will be packed. The Red Hurricane will be ready. Ralph will have those guys foaming at the mouth before the game. And we're going to see what Newcastle's made of on Friday. In years past, we never lost games like this, ever. We didn't. When Hampton came to town and they were hanging from the rafters that day. They were sitting in the aisles. We beat them. When Beaver Falls came to town back in the day, and they would bring 1,000 people from Beaver Falls to pack the gym, we beat them. It's just who we are. Ralph will have them ready, man. And I've heard 1,000,000 of those pep talks in the locker room before it started. But we're going to see what the Red Hurricanes made of on Friday. We're going to see what they're made of. We're going to see. Ralph will have them ready. But, man, they got to come. They got to be playing with foam. They got to be foaming at the mouth, man. And I think they will. I'll never lose faith in Ralph or Newcastle. Never.
All right. These are fun games to watch, even though they're not playoff games. I know Peyton Manning years ago said it's either a playoff game or it's not. You can't say it's like a playoff game, because if it's not a playoff game, then it can't be like a playoff game. But these are about as close as you get from right now at this turn of the section play to a playoff game.
Well, I got news for you. Friday night is a playoff game for Newcastle. They have to win. And
Mhm.
truth be told, Tuesday night's a playoff game for Ellwood City. If they have any hopes of, winning the section, they gotta protect home court. They gotta win Tuesday night. So these are playoff games for those two teams. They are.
Yep.
Maybe Ralph will let me go in the locker room before the game. Every once in a while I used to cry before the game. Oh yeah. I'd choke up, I'd break down. You know what I mean? Every once in a while.
You might want to bring your checkbook if you want to get in the locker room, Larry. Just as a heads up, it might help you.
No, listen, I'm not allowed to say anything, but I still have a pass to go in there anytime I want.
Okay. Right.
Once a Red Hurricane, always a Red Hurricane.
It's good to have a pull, right, Larry Kelly?
No, I don't mean to cause any controversy, but I read the headline in the paper today. Red Hurricane cruises to verdict over Indiana. Did you leave a letter out there, or was that by design?
You can vote on it all you want. You can have all the fanfare you want. If you read the newspaper a couple days earlier, I believe it was, or no, it might have been that same day when we ran an archive column by Kayleen. You can have all the fanfare you want and vote for something trivial as a letter. We're sticking to what we believe in, and that's Red Hurricane.
Well, but here's the only thing I'll say. And when I started my career as a staff writer at the Newcastle News, my first day on the job, Bob Vosberg, the editor of the newspaper, a man who knew more about Newcastle high school athletics than anybody I've ever met in the history of Newcastle high school athletics, told me on the very first day, in no uncertain terms, that when I refer to Newcastle High School, it is the Red Hurricane. Do you got that, Larry? I got it, Mr. Vosberg. I got it. So I'm with you, Ronnie. I mean, listen, I just think that's who it is, and that's what it is. But hey, they can do whatever they want. A lot of teams have changed their nicknames through the years, right? The Washington Redskins are now the Washington Commanders. The Marquette Warriors are now the Marquette Golden something or others, Flashes. So you can change your nickname. You can do that. But a lot of people in Cleveland still refer to the Cleveland Guardians as the Cleveland Indians, and that'll never change. So,
right. Yeah, the Mid-American Conference is famous for that. Used to be the Eastern Michigan Hurons. They're now the Eagles. Miami Redskins. They're now the Red Hawks. Redmen are now the Red Storm. Syracuse Orangemen are now the Orange, so they can be politically correct, in that regard for gender purposes. You name it, but guess what? Whether you like it or you don't, get used to learning to love it, because it's the best thing going today.
Listen, Kayleen sent me a text this morning when she saw the headline and just smiled, and I smiled too. I did. So I'm a Bob Vosberg disciple. I respected that man. I didn't know anybody. You didn't know him. Nobody was a better newspaper man than him. Whatever I knew about journalism, he taught me. And nobody knew more about the history of Newcastle High School and the athletic program than him. And so I will always refer to Newcastle as the Red Hurricane.
Well, I didn't work with Bob Vosberg. I did know him because he was still on the Hall of Fame committee, the Historical Society Hall of Fame committee, and I covered a couple banquets my first couple years, and I got to meet him and sit at the table with him. So yeah, I did know him in that regard. I did not work with him, but yeah, I did know him and meet him.
He was a good man. He taught me a lot about the newspaper business, and he was a real journalist, a real newspaper man. He really, really was.
Yeah, we don't use the S around here, Larry. So,
I loved it. I did. I saw it this morning, and it brought a smile on my face.
I knew it would stir the pot for somebody.
All right, my friend. I guess we'll talk next week.
Larry, good talking to you. Best of luck to all our teams. Big games this week, fans. Go out there and support your teams. We'll see you back here next week on Tip-Off. Thanks again, Larry.
We all know there's an advantage to playing at home, to being the home team. At LGKG, we've been your home team personal injury attorneys for auto accident and workers' compensation cases for over 90 years. We know what works and how to win. We have all the credentials. At LGKG, we don't take every case. We handpick our clients so that we can give you the attention you deserve.